We're starting Parshas Vayishlach. Okay, page 170. So Yakov is heading home, and Vayishlach Yakov malachim lefanav v'leisav achiv arza seir sedei Edom. Yakov sends messengers. The Rashi says actual angels, whatever that means, and he sends them to Asov in the land of Seir, by the fields of Edom, which is where Asov lives. So Yakov understands that. Now Yakov is somewhat taken to task for this. In the Medrash it says, what did Yakov have to do this for? There's an expression used in, I think it's in Mishli, hanging on to the ears of the dog, where you pull a dog's ears for no reason. That's somebody who gets involved in a fight that's not his fight. What are you getting involved in a fight? There's a fight going on. What do you got to get involved with it? So Yaakov Avinu almost invites trouble. What are you telling Asov that you're coming for? Why do you have to invite the trouble over here? There's a slight criticism of Yaakov Avinu here. What do you have to go invite trouble for? If Asov comes, he'll come. What do you have to go and tell him that you're coming home for? So the truth of the matter is that Yaakov will see he's testing Asov to a certain extent. Now, what's going to happen over here is, Rav Hirsch describes, you have the epic meeting over here between the values of two societies. Because you're going to have Yaakov, the family man, wives, children, representing Jewish values, which is family, developing a family, building a family, guiding a family, versus Asov at the head of his 400 men, which is the glory and the honor of the Asov empire, the world, the ideal of living for this world and living for the honor and the glory. So Yaakov says to him the following: This is what you should say to my master Asov. Ko amar avdecha Yaakov. This is what your servant Yaakov says. Im Lavan garti, I have lived with Lavan, and I have tarried until this point. I have waited until this point. Now, the word garti, you notice Yaakov uses a very, very submissive terminology. So says your servant Yaakov. Say to my master Asov, so says your servant Yaakov, which again is a rule for us in Golus. Yaakov and Asov represents the Jew in exile versus the ruling power around us. And the Jewish attitude in exiles are supposed to be submissive. We don't walk around flaunting our strength because we don't have much strength in exile. We're in exile. And what we're told by Chazal is that when in exile, we should be in an exile mode, and we should treat the nations with respect and not taunt them and not get them upset. So Yaakov says a message over here, which Rashi points out. Look at that word garti. It's the third word. It's the last word on the third line. See that word garti? Now you'll notice if you rearrange the letters of garti, what do you get? Taryag. Taryag. Garti is the same letters as taryag. Right? What is tar? You notice that, right? What is taryag? What is taryag?
The tourist.
No. That's a garti. Garti, I lived there as a tourist. What is taryag? You ever hear of the taryag mitzvahs? The taryag, the 613 mitzvahs, is called taryag because Tuf is 400, Resh is 200. That's 600. Yud is 10, and Gimel is 3. So the first thing you have to know is that there are 613 mitzvahs, and the easiest way to express it in Hebrew is by calling it taryag. Taryag, you use you put together letters in order to spell it out. So you start with a 400, which is the biggest one, which is a tough. Then you go to the next one that's going to get you up to the hundreds that you need. You go with the resh. We are in the year Tuf Shin Ayin Hey. We call Tuf Shin Ayin Hey because it is Tuf is 4 and Shin is 300 is 775. We are in the 5th millennia, or 6th millennia as the case may be, 5,000. You don't need to mention that when you mention the date. Most people realize that the 1,000 years hasn't elapsed since they last went to sleep. So we know we are still in the 5th millennia, and we are in the 775th year of the 5,775 since the creation of the world. Now, the mitzvahs works like this. This is just an important piece of knowledge in Judaism 101. We know that there are 613 mitzvahs because the Gemara says so. The Gemara says there are 613 mitzvahs. That is a tradition we have. How to count the mitzvahs is not always agreed upon. So one of the classic disputes between the Rambam and the Ramban is, for example, if you put on tefillin, did you just perform 2 mitzvahs, or you perform one big mitzvah called tefillin? But whoever counts it as 2, therefore it counts something else as 1, which the other one counts as 2. In other words, all agree that you have to have a total of 613. How you get there may be a dispute, but everybody agrees that there are 613. Obviously, there are many more mitzvahs than that, but there are 613 mitzvahs, which are considered the primary mitzvahs, which are the count of the mitzvahs, and everything else fits a subcategory of some sort. There's even a statement in the Mishnah that says, Ratza HaKadosh Baruch Hu lezakos Yisrael. God wanted to bring merit for the Jewish people. Lefichach hirba lahem Torah mitzvahs. Therefore, God gave us a lot of Torah and a lot of mitzvahs. As a matter of fact, a little boy once asked Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach's exile. He said to Rabbi Shlomo Zalman, if God really wanted to give us so much merit, so why did he make it so hard for us? I mean, why didn't he give us less mitzvahs than more mitzvahs? Shlomo Zalman said, it's a very good question. Very good question. He said to the little boy, let me ask you a question. You put on shoes in the morning. The boy said, yeah. He said to him, do you know anybody who doesn't put on shoes in the morning? He says, well, there's my little brother Yankee, but everybody else puts on shoes. So Shlomo Zalman says, right, everybody in the world wears shoes basically until you get to continental Africa. Everybody in the world puts on shoes, right? Everybody wears shoes. Now, what's the difference between you and them? Nothing. You're all putting on shoes anyway. Except that if you put on your right shoe, then your left shoe, and you tie your left shoe, you tie your right shoe, you've done a mitzvah, right? That's what it means. Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu lezakos Yisrael. We're doing stuff that we do anyway. Do you eat? Yeah, I eat. And does anybody in the world not eat? No, everybody eats. I know everybody eats. Okay, if everybody eats and you eat, so all you got to do is eat the food kosher, make a bracha, but you're eating anyway. And so that's what Shlomo Zalman was answering. That means we have lots and lots of mitzvahs. We have more mitzvahs than we could even count. But according to the Gemara, there are 613 mitzvahs. There's a grand total of 613. However you make the calculation to get there, that's what you have to end up with. So Yakov sends a message. Take a look at Rashi. The first Rashi and Pasuk, it's 3 lines from the top. Right column, 3 lines from the top on page 170. Rashi says, Garti, I lived with him. Lo na'asesi sar v'choshuv. I did not become an important official in Lavan's land. Ela ger. I was a ger. A ger means a stranger. I've been there 20 years and I'm still treated as a stranger. Eincha kedai lisno osi. It's not right for you to hate me. Al birkos avicha, then the brachas that I was given, shebirchani, that he gave me a bracha, have a gvir la'achecha. You'll be the master of your brother. I mean, I never became a master. I never became anything significant. I'm Lovan Garti. You got no reason to resent me for the brachas that didn't come true. Nothing happened over here. Sharei lo niskayim will be, the brachas didn't come true. That's the first idea of what he was saying to Yakov, Asov. In order to appease Asov, he says, listen, relax, nothing happened over here. There's nothing to get upset about. I never made it. Then he says, Rashi, davar acher, there's another idea here. Garti begematria taryag. Garti is the same numerical value as taryag. Klomar, im Lavan harasha garti, I lived with Lavan. V'taryag mitzvahs shemarti, I kept the 613 mitzvahs. V'lo lamadeti mimaisav roim, I did not learn from his evil ways. So he's sending a message to Asov, by the way, I've been with Lavan, but I kept the 613 mitzvahs anyway. Again, this all presumes that the Avos kept the mitzvahs. The obvious question there becomes, and why would Asov be happy to hear that Yakov kept the 613 mitzvahs? I mean, you're trying to appease him. By the way, I live with Lavan, v'taryag mitzvahs shemarti. Good question, right? I mean, oh, good, my brother the Frummi is coming. What about that is supposed to make you happy, Yakov, if you're the one on the receiving end of that message? You, Asov, what should you be happy about? So, the commentary said like this, that Yakov is sending Asov a very, very clear message over here. He's saying, look, first of all, I want to make peace. I want to make peace with you. But I just want you to keep one thing in mind. I kept the 613 mitzvahs. That means as a Torah Jew, we're limited in what kind of compromises we can make for the sake of peace. We want peace, shalom, everything is shalom, make peace with everybody. So again, this is one of the issues we face in the contemporary. I don't want to get political. I'm just trying to put it in the proper perspective. So, for example, the secular in Israel will say, well, why do you have to close those streets on Shabbos? Why can't you open the streets on Shabbos, let people drive on Shabbos, so on and so forth? The answer is, look, we want peace with everybody. We want peace. We don't want any fighting. We don't want any conflict. But the Torah is not ours to compromise. It's not my Torah. I can't compromise. I have to do what the Torah says to do. Same thing you find in the world of Kiruv. People want to invite people to their house for Shabbos. But what if he drives on Shabbos? What if he drives to your house? So there are different poskim. Some poskim say, well, for the sake of Torah, there are leniencies that if the guy knows, for a fact he's going to drive, then the halacha is you can't invite him. What about if the guy lives within walking distance where it's theoretically possible for him to walk? Then there are certain poskim who say that under certain circumstances you could invite him because anyway he could walk. You're not forcing him to drive, he's choosing to drive. Okay. Then there's the mainstream approach that says, don't invite him if he's going to drive. And as Rabbi Yashiv said, you're trying to invite somebody because you want to keep him, you want to convince him to keep Shabbos, and you're going to do it by having him desecrate Shabbos. Now, isn't that ridiculous? Isn't that ridiculous? But it's more than that. It's not a question of the ridiculousness. It's not a question of the cost efficiency. It's a question of, it's not our Torah to compromise. You want to serve God by inviting somebody over and by breaking God's law to do it. Do you understand what you're doing over here? It's not your Torah to compromise. Do what you can without compromising. And that's very important for in the world of outreach, that many people break and bend and twist rules in order for the good of the cause. How do you know that's the good of the cause? God said don't do that. Well, yeah, but what about these Jews? Don't worry. God loves them more than you do. God will worry about them. When I first got married, my wife took a job. Rabbi Schuster, used to be by the exile. He'd go around there with Jeff Seidel looking for people for backpackers and that sort of thing. So I first got married. We were living here, and my wife was 20 years old, and it's her first job, and she gets a job going to the exile, and the men are on one side of the mechitza, and she's on the other side of mechitza. If any girls wandering around. So then one day she comes home to me. She says, "What if none of the men are around, and I see a single guy there, some backpacker walking around? Am I allowed to approach him?" Now her instinct was she can't because it's not sneeze. Her instinct was you can't approach him. It's not sneeze for a 20-year-old girl to go and approach a single guy. So I asked my posek. My posek said to me, "We are not God's policemen. If it is not proper according to halacha, you don't do it. And it's not appropriate for a girl to go and approach a guy. That's not how you do kiruv." What about the guy? He'll be lost to the Jewish people. Don't worry. God's more concerned about him than you. If God wants him to come into the Jewish people, God will bring about a way halachically where he can come into the Jewish people. God didn't send you to be the enforcer to decide what's right and what's wrong. That's what Yakov is sending a message. Yakov's sending a message. Look, Taryag mitzvah shemarti. I kept the 613 mitzvahs. So don't get what do you call it over here? Don't I'll compromise with you. I'll make peace. I'll do everything I can up until it means breaking the laws of the Torah. That I'm not going to do. Right? You'll have to compromise with me. That's the first idea. Idea number two here is like this, very subtle, many subtleties that Yakov is sending. Yakov wants to protect himself. See, first he has to draw Asov in. So he says, Asov, look, I was living with Lavan, and look at the next pasuk for a second, gentlemen. Vayili shor v'chamor tzon ve'eved v'shivcha. I have an ox and a donkey and sheep, cattle and a slave and a maidservant. V'eshlach alahagid la'adoni leim sochen menach. I've sent to tell you to find favor in your eyes. So Rashi points out, why does he use a singular term? Why does he call, I have an ox and a donkey and everything else? So Rashi says, stylistically, you call a lot by one name. It's like somebody say, many a time. Right? You ever heard that expression, many a time, right? That's an annoying expression from annoying people. Many a time. We don't talk. We say many times or lots of times, but we don't say many a time. English teachers say that, and people who drink Dr. Pepper say that. Nobody else says that. So many a time, but that's how, so I have ox, right? That means I've got a lot of oxen. That's what he's sending him. So what's really going on here? So when it comes to the Chassam Sofer, I believe it is, or the Ksav Sofer, I forgot who it was, he says like a very clever. You see, Yakov wants to get Asov all excited over here. So he says, hey, Asov, I got a lot of property. So Asov thinks of, well, that's great. He's got property, and he's a single. And, when he dies, I guess I'm the next of kin. I'm going to inherit all this. And they'll get Asov kind of ready to come over and meet Yakov. But that's not the truth, because Yakov has got family. He's got lots of family. He's got 4 wives. So what does Yakov say is a very subtle man? Im Lavan garti. I kept, in other words, if Asov shows up and he says, hey, what the heck is going on here? Who are all these women over? Which he does. He says, who are these people? We'll see later on. Asov says, who are the women and these children? Who is this? And Yakov says to him, he sends him a message. I've kept the 613 mitzvahs, which includes the first one, which is to be fruitful and multiply. So don't say I didn't tell you. Don't say I didn't tell you. I told you I kept the 613 mitzvahs. It's telling you, what do you want from me? I told you I kept 613 mitzvahs. You know, the first, look, open the book. The first one is to be fruitful and multiply, and I've kept that mitzvah. Therefore, you have no complaints against me that I've accumulated all this that I have these wives and children, and you're not going to inherit. Number one. Number two, the commentaries say, you ever be in a situation in life where a guy calls you, hi, how are you, Yishai? How you doing? Yeah, good. Really? Yeah, what's going on? Yeah. Oh, by the way, Yishai, can I borrow $20? What did that tell you?
That's why they called.
That's why I called. That's why I called. I've trained my family, don't do that. Don't do that. You need something to get to the point. I've even learned from experience. I had a guy once at the other yeshiva, he comes to me, can I ask you 2 questions? I said, yeah. He says, first of all, in the Chumash Shir, I give Chumash Shir the other, he said, the Chumash Shir, you said this, I was flattered, wow, the guy listens to the Chumash Shir, he's asking me a question, I'm honored, So I answered his question, I said, what's the second question? He says, well, there's an in Shabbos this week, could I get permission to leave? So I realized, yeah, he wanted to ask me about Chumash, like I want to ask you about Afghanistan. That's what he came to ask me because he wants to leave, that's what he really wanted. So then the next time, it was either him or another guy, I don't remember if it was him or another guy, but one of them came to me. And the next time a guy said, Rabbi, can I ask you 2 questions? I said, yeah, what's the second one? So he looked at me and goes, why? I said, because that's what you want to ask, which is true. So sometimes people call you up, hi, how are you? What do you need? So I've trained my family, don't do that. Don't do that. You need something, call up and get to the point. But by the way, I'll give you a tip, which you should also pay me for, a lot of money for this. Yeah, lots, Dave. Yeah, lots. Yeah. Which word did you understand? Read my lips, lots, yeah. So you should pay me a lot for this. When you have a kid in school, so often what people do, they call up, hi, I just want to tell you, Rabbi Plony, I just want to tell my son really enjoys the class. He's learning the Mishnah so well and everything else. Do you think you could move him up to the board? He's having trouble seeing in the back row over there. Can you move up to the board? So what he knows is that you didn't call to compliment him. Right? You diffused it. So it's a very good idea before you do anything else. First call. I tried calling on the beginning when my kids were little, they're not in primary school. On the first day of the year, or first week of the year, I try to call up and say to the Rebbe, wow, my son really enjoyed your class. And he calls, he says, yeah, and? No and. I just wanted to tell you that. Right? So if you're going to hear a thud because he faints, because that rarely happens. Usually it's called. I said, no, I just wanted to tell you. And I try to get his wife, because it's very good that his wife should get the call. She's proud of the husband, and he's happy that somebody told his wife that he's not just a good for nothing. And there's a lot to gain. And then they treat the kid better. Okay. Then later in the year, when you need to call, so the guy knows you're not just calling for nothing. When I called for a compliment, I gave you a compliment. Now I'm calling to move my kid up to the board. So you gain a step up on the kid. I want to tell you something happened with my daughter. My daughter was in a school, a little from school, so you can imagine how many girls there are. No, you can't imagine, because there are much more than anything you could imagine. So she's in this little from school, about 600 girls. Okay, on the last day of the year, when she was in about 4th grade, I wrote a note to the principal. I said, listen, thank you very much. My daughter had a wonderful year, and it's a lot result is because of your selection of teachers, and it's a reflection on you, blah, blah, blah. All the cream and schmaltz that you could imagine, with no pride at all, okay? The first day of the next year, opening day of the next year, 5th grade, my daughter comes home. She says, Daddy, Mommy, Daddy, all the girls were walking into school today. They're going through the fence, and the principal was there, and the principal was just looking at all the girls. When she saw me, she just went, hi, how are you? How was your summer? How was your vacation? I was the only one she said that to. Now, do you think there's cause and effect? I have very little doubt. And what happens is it gives the teacher, puts focus on your kid in the classroom. Just calling a teacher to ask how your kid is doing is very important. Because a teacher in a room with 25 kids, knowing the parents care, by definition, I once did a survey of teachers. I did a survey of teachers, of people teaching. I asked about 25 teachers, does it affect you when a parent calls about his kid? I said, of course it affects me. Of course, if the parent cares, I care more. Should I is not the issue. I do. One teacher said he doesn't. One teacher said it doesn't affect him one way or another. One teacher said it doesn't affect him. Everybody else said it does. Because it does. When a parent calls, you're going to pay attention because the parent, and what if the parent calls again? Psychologically it helps. So Yakov is now telling Asov, hi Asov, how are you? What's Asov's first concern? What's your first concern ever when you hear somebody you haven't heard from in a long time? Hi, how are you? What do you need? Yeah, how's it going? Yeah, how's it going? They're just calling you up to find out how it's going, huh? Yeah, and whenever I get a call, I don't say hi, how are you? When I call, I just say hi. I say who it is. Do you have, will you be? I don't ask hi, how are you? And sometimes I even I know one person, every time I call, she answers the phone. I say, hi, it's David Kaplan. Yeah, Baruch Hashem. Yeah, because she's expecting me to say, how are you? But I don't want to get into that. Hi, how are you? Oh, really? I'm in the infrared. Just go straight to the point. Hi, how are you? Hi, it's me. This is, do you know, so and so on. Yakov is concerned. What's Asov going to think when Yakov says, oh, by the way, Asov, hi, I haven't spoken to you in 20 years. What do you think Asov's concern is going to be? What do you need? Why are you coming to me now? What do you need? Yakov contacts Asov. He sends agents and says, hi, Asov. Yeah. So what do you think Asov's first reaction is going to be? What do you want? Yeah, what do you want? The Frummy needs money now for his kolo. Yeah, okay, what do you want? Right? So Yakov says to Asov, I have ox, I have donkeys, I have sheep, I have everything else. Don't worry, I don't need anything from you. I don't need anything. I'm contacting you because it's you, not because I need something. Which is what you have to be able to do when you're a fundraiser, which is why I'm not. A fundraiser, I've never been able to get past that concept. You're going in and you're talking to somebody and you're making small talk, and we both know why you're there. Now, we both know, you know and I know why I'm there, and you have to be able to develop a relationship with a guy where the guy's actually convinced that you would like him even if he wasn't rich. And it's a very, very tricky, difficult thing. That's why some people are talented fundraisers and some are not, and which is why I'm not. Because you got to go in there and you got to be able to shoot the breeze and you got to be able to talk and pretend and nurture a relationship, and it's a very, very difficult thing. And therefore the Torah says, Yakov sends him, I don't need anything. I want you to know that I'm here because I want you. I like you. I want to make peace with you. I don't need anything. There's nothing in it for me. That's why he sends them that message. Okay. So the angels come back to Yakov and they say, well, Asov is coming towards you with 400 men. And Yakov is very upset because Yakov realizes, this is not good. If a man is coming at you with 400, you got women and children, he's coming at you with 400 warriors. That's not exactly a tea party. So he's what do you call it? Yaakov is nervous. Now look at the top of page 170. I'll show you something incredible when the commentary says, Vayira Yaakov me'od. Yaakov is very afraid. Vayetzer lo, and he has a lot of distress. Vayachatz es ha'om asher ito v'zatzon v'zaboker v'gmam l'shnei machanos. Yaakov divides the camp. He divides his people into two camps. Now, Vayomer, why does he do that? Vayomer, he figures the following. Im yovo Esav el ha'machane ha'achas v'yiko. If Esav comes to one camp, v'hoya ha'machane ha'nishar lifleita. The remaining camp will escape. That's what Yakov said. So in 1933, right after Hitler had risen to power, so they asked the Chafetz Chaim, that was the year the Chafetz Chaim died. And already the writing was on the wall for what was going to be happening. And they asked the Chafetz Chaim, are the Jewish people going to be annihilated? So the Chafetz Chaim said, no. They said, how do you know? So he opened up the Torah over here and he said, look what the Torah says. Yaakov divided up the camps, and this is a lesson for Jewish history, this is a precursor for Jewish history, is if one camp is wiped out, the other camp will survive. Never going to be able to annihilate all the Jewish people. Never be able to annihilate the Jewish people. There's a strategy in it. There's a strategy. One of the blessings of exile is that because we're in Golus in so many places, we're never pooled together in one place. They can't wipe us all out. Just whoever wants to wipe us out, go digging and you're going to find a Jew somewhere. Right? Every office in the world, there's a Jew working there. His name is Thompson, but he changed his name. His original new name was Murphy, and he changed it from Murphy to Thompson after they found out that Murphy was a Jew. That was a Jew. Somebody once said, what was your original name? So he says, Murphy. No, the real original name. So there are Jews everywhere, and usually the Jew gives it away in the office. Like one day they bring in free Danishes, and the Jew's the guy in the office goes, "Wow, they're free!" And everybody's a Jew. Everybody's pointing. Everybody sees the Jew. I once bought my wife a freezer. It cost about 3,500 shekels. A new refrigerator, a freezer. She didn't have a new freezer for that. So I brought a freezer, but the freezer came with a new pen, with a free pen. And so my wife, here bringing it up, my wife says, wow, is that pen free? Yeah, girl, but the freezer wasn't, remember? Yeah, the pen was free. Oh, wow, yeah, she's Jewish. Hey, a free pen. Look at that. The whole deal was worth it. We got a free pen. If we buy 10 freezers, we'll have 10 free pens. How do you like that? You can make a whole box in a collection. So one of the benefits of being in Gullus is that we're all spread out all over the place. In the least, I heard a story about two Israeli guys. Two Jewish guys, secular guys. They go traveling in one of these tropical islands somewhere, in one of these places. They got these tribes out in these islands over there, and they're in this island, these two Jewish guys, and they're having this ritual party with a dance. So they got the what do you call it? They got the witch doctor in the middle of the thing, and he's doing a dance around this island in the thing with fires and what do you call it, the pom-poms and the banging and the fires and the flames, and it's dark, and the whole thing is very, very, this guy's dancing around the circle. And one of the Jewish guys looks at the other one and says, oh, if my mother could only see me now. And just then the doctor, the witch doctor, comes dancing past them, and he stops and he says to them in Yiddish, and if my mother could see me now. So the Jews are always in the least expected place. Everywhere you go, you're going to find a Jew. The Jew, you turn over a stone and there's a Jew. So that's one of the benefits. One of the benefits is we're never pooled together. But they asked the Chafetz Chaim, what's going to happen to the Jewish people in 1933? Are they going to be annihilated? He said, no. There's going to be one camp that's going to survive. They said to the Chafetz Chaim, where's it going to be? Where is the surviving camp going to be? So the Chafetz Chaim, he turned to the Haftorah of this week's Parsha. Take a look at the Haftorah. On page 1141. Actually, turn on to 1142. Good, Isaac, I got it right. Take a look at 1142. Look at the Haftorah. And the Haftorah says like this. Look at verse 17. Look at verse 17. It's page 1142. 6 lines from the top. The Haftorah of this very Parsha. Said the Chafetz Chaim, he said, they won't be annihilated, that you see in the Torah itself. Where will the remnants be? Said the Chafetz Chaim in 1933. He quoted this pasuk. Uvahar Tzion tia pleta. In Mount Zion there will be this refuge, there will be escape. V'hoya Kodesh. There'll be in Mount Zion, meaning Israel, there is going to be refuge. If you know anything about World War II, General Erwin Rommel, the German general known as the Desert Fox, one of the great military strategists of all time, he was coming up through Egypt, and with plans of annihilating the Yishuv in Eretz Yisrael. This was before the state. It was in 1944 or 45, and he was planning on coming up to Eretz Yisrael. And he was on his way into Israel, and they had the great battle of El Alamein, and he was stopped. I think it was Montgomery, the British General Montgomery, who stopped him in the battle of El Alamein. The people in Israel thought they're going. The people in Israel thought no way that the Germans were going to be stopped by natural law. The people in Israel were convinced that they were going to be annihilated, and Rommel was stopped, and that was the beginning of the end. So it was in Har Tzion tia pleta. The people in Zion. Apparently the Chafetz Chaim meant between a threat in Europe and the threat in Israel. America wasn't threatened by the Germans, but the threat in Israel, the threat in what he called, these are the people who are going to have refuge. And then the Jewish people started coming to Israel, and so on and so forth. So, but look at the next pasuk. V'hoya beis Yakov eish. The house of Yakov is going to be fire. Ubeis Yosef lahava, and the house of Yaakov is a flame. Uveis Asov lakash. In the house of Asov is going to be straw. Straw versus flame. Flame trumps straw any day. Straw versus fire. Fire trumps straw. But what's even more important is look at the numerical value of the word kash. Kash is made of two letters, a kuf and a shin. Which a kuf is 100, a shin is what? 300. Total of 400. Those are 400 men of Asov. The 400 men of Asov, okay, they're coming towards Yakov, he's not too worried. He's not really worried. I'll try to make peace with you, but if necessary, the house of Yosef, Yakov is the fire, Yosef is the longer flame, and the house of Asov is straw. And ultimately, that house of Asov is going to go up in smoke. The number 400 is always a negative number in Torah. Most of the time, you find the number 400 always represents something negative. Remember, Ephron was charging Yaakov Avinu 400 pieces of 400 silver pieces for the land, and he's criticized for that. The numerical value of Ephron is 400 without a vav, and then you find the two men who made a wager if they could get Hillel upset. The Gemara says the wager was 400 zuz if they could make Hillel. What else?
400 years of slavery.
400 years of slavery in Egypt, which was no party. So the number 400 always problematic. Now, 1 second, still not finished. Now I'll go back to the parsha. So how many fires do we have? We have 2 fires. Now take a look at the beginning of the parsha. Go back to page 170. Go back to 170. First pasuk in the parsha. Vayishlach Yakov malachim lefanav el Asov achiv. Yaakov sends angels ahead of him to Asov his brother. Artza Sdeir, Sdei Edom. Now look at those last 4 words. What are the first letters of each of the last of the 4 words? Artza is what? Aleph.
Shin.
Seir is a shin. There's Aish.
Shin.
And there's a shin and an aleph, which also spells Aish. Yaakov sending a message to Asov, his brother. Aish and Aish. What is it that's coming towards you? The fire of Yakov and the fire of Yosef. Don't mess. Just watch your step. We'll see that there are implied messages here all along. Yakov implies certain messages that under the surface, so Asov, I hope you get the hint. Right? So included in this, obviously it's a coincidence, whoever wrote the Torah, happened to slip out that way. So Artza Seir Stay Edom, must be written by a human being, right? Artza Seir Stay Edom, Aish and Aish. That's a little message to Asov. Now, go back to where we are. He says he's going to divide the camp, but I want you to go back to Pasuk Ches for a second, top of page 172. Vayira Yakov me'od vayetzer. Yaakov's very afraid, and he's distressed. Take a look at Rashi. It's the right column, first line in Rashi, page 172. Vayira vayetzer. Says Rashi, Vayira shema yehoreg. He was afraid that maybe he's going to get killed. Vayetzer lo im yaharogu es acherim. He was upset if he has to kill other people. He's not happy to do it. So over here it says, Yaakov's afraid that he might get killed, but he has tsar that he might kill others. Now listen, this is incredible. He might kill acherim. Okay, now listen to this. Are you aware that there's somebody in the Gemara called Acher?
Yeah.
Acher, okay? Acher is Elisha ben Avuya. Why does that make you happy, Yishai? Right? Acher is Elisha ben Avuya. He's the only Tana we find who ever goes off. And he's called Acher, the other one, okay? He has a disciple named Rebi Mayor, who whenever Rebi Mayor quotes his Rebbe, the Gemara says, Acherim Omrim. If it says Acherim Omrim, others say in the Gemara, that's a reference to Rebi Mayor saying something in the name of Acher. Rebi Mayor saying something in the name of Acher. So he's called Acher, the other one, the one we don't talk about. And then there's Rebi Mayor. Okay? Acher was a tremendous Talmid Chacham who happened to go off for various reasons. Okay. Now, do you know historically, did any of you learn history in high school? Did any of you learn anything in hhigh school? Yeah, okay. So but still, if you learn nothing in high school, it's still more than me. All right. So if what do you call it? Acher, okay. Now, in high school, remember there's this legend about Nero fiddled while Rome burnt. Did you ever hear that? The Emperor Nero fiddled while Rome burnt. Now, that's the legend that they always tell you. The Gemara in Gittin says that Nero converted to Judaism. The Gemara in Gittin says that Nero, the Roman Emperor, when he read the writing on the wall, Nero, rather than destroy the Beis Hamikdash, decided to convert to Judaism, which is very unpopular in ancient Rome, especially for an emperor to do that. And therefore, Nero, it would be roughly the equivalent of Obama joining Daesh, right? Most would be critical, some would be happy, but whatever it would be an absolute shocking move. Nero, the Roman emperor, the Gemara says he converted to Judaism, and he had a descendant called Rebi Mayor. Where does Rome come from? Rome comes from Asov. Okay, so Rebi Mayor, the great Rebi Mayor, the Gemara says about Rebi Mayor, he was so brilliant that his colleagues could not fathom the depth of his wisdom. They didn't paskin like him because they didn't understand what he was saying. It was like, well, I know that sounds good, but we can't paskin. We can't even fathom how deep you're getting. Rebi Mayor was the Talmud of Rabbi Akiva. the Rebi of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, okay, the great Rebi Mayor. He came from Nero. And the secular book, Nero disappeared somewhere. They don't know where Nero went. They never know where Nero went. They think he went crazy. They don't have any record of whatever happened to Nero. They have a record of a dime. We have a record of him, the Goran Gittin. Goran Gittin says he converted to Judaism. And he had a descendant named Rebi Mayor. We have a very good record of him. We have a very accurate record of him. It's called Neron Caesar. Caesar Nero. Converted. What's Rebi Mayor called? Mayor called Acherim. Now read this Rashi again. Vayira Shema Yehare. Yakov was worried that he would be killed. Vayetzer lo im yarogu es acherim. He was worried, if I got to kill Asov now, there goes that line that will lead to Nero and ultimately lead to Rebi Mayor. He didn't care about Asov. I might not allow for the birth of Rebi Mayor over here, who is called acherim. That's what's really bothering Yaakov Avinu, right? Vayetzer lo im yarogu es acherim. That's what the commentaries say. Okay, we'll stop here, John. We'll continue tomorrow.